Good afternoon, friends and traders. Welcome to the market. No, welcome to Coach's Playbook. I'm Dan Hodgman. As usual, we're sitting here with Hogue, Mick, and we've got the Dancing Bear. He's a little on edge right now. It's been a while since he's been in here, and the stock market is moving lower. How are you guys doing today?
Feeling great, Dan. Thanks.
JD, we're glad to have you here. It's a perfect timing too, right? Year and a half ago, you picked up the name Dancing Bear. Stocks have been pretty much on the whole higher, but now we got a little bit of a down day. How you feeling about the down day? You short
I'm
it?
loving. I'm loving it.
Short since this morning. You've been short since yesterday's highs.
I'm always looking for a reason to short this market.
That's
how's that been working for you?
No, I'm joking. Just because I'm looking for the opportunity doesn't mean I'm actually doing it. I'm looking for reasons to, because I don't know. Sometimes I feel this thing is just so overbought, so overextended, but then it just keeps creeping higher, and it's tough. I mean, picking tops is dangerous business. Well, you got to have a reason to put that short on.
We know that markets can fall faster than they rise.
Very true.
And it's a pretty poignant time too, right? We're going to talk about this idea. The title says doing your homework. This is kind of a little different style of homework to be doing, right? There's a lot that goes into prepping for your trading day, getting your trading plan ready to go, going through your strategy, what you're going to be looking at each and every day. Well, one of the biggest things that we're always looking at is where are we getting some news from? Everyone's got all sorts of different news sources. There's thousands and tens of thousands of out there. And one of the biggest things you got to do is do your homework into vetting out those sources. And I think sitting in this little group of four of us here, everyone looks at different things. So JD, what are some of the things or places that you're looking at for some poignant, timely information to help you with day trading? For say example, when the stock market finally starts to sell off, where are you looking?
Great question. I still think social media is a really powerful tool for smaller retail day traders that don't have the resources to pay for like the super high speed data feeds or news feeds. They're just they're not, the value isn't there if you're paying thousands of dollars a month but you're not bringing that kind of income in. Like, the value is just not there for you. So I have my tweet deck up all day long. It's great for breaking news. There's sort of a way that the people that I follow on there, it's sort of evolved over a long period of time. So the news I'm getting is relative to the markets that I'm trading or watching. So how I started was I just followed everybody I could find. I was hashtagging the markets that I was trading. I was looking for banks. I was looking for other retail traders, and I just followed everybody. I would sign up for every newsletter for every financial institution I could find. And then you slowly just start trimming the fat, the more relevant the information is, like the more, I guess you could say, the more valuable it is to your trading. And then those people that are just kind of fluffing you with information that's useless, you just slowly start trimming them away.
It doesn't take a long time to figure out who you want to trim too.
Yeah, it really doesn't. But if there's so many people out there, so like you're following, thousands of other traders and whatnot. Yeah, you could cut off a couple hundred a day if they're just nonsense or not contributing to the cause that you're focusing on. But yeah, you will figure it out pretty quick who the important people are. There's also things like chat rooms, which do have value also, I think, but you really have to spend some time vetting the moderators and the owners. You got to make sure they're not, the contributors, make sure they're not just like serial entrepreneurs out there, like giving spots away as moderators to the lowest bidder kind of thing. You want to make sure that the people that are in there are contributing and holding the value for the product.
Yeah, I think at the end of the day, wherever you're looking, the concept teach a man to fish first, give a man a fish is really important. When you're looking at all these sources, there's so many different people out there. You don't know their background. You don't know where they've been or what their style is. I see way too often in a lot of places that are chat rooms that I'll jump in, or groups that I've seen where people are saying, okay, above 56, I'm buying, below below 47, I'm selling. Well, what do you mean by that? Like, you got to give some validation behind that. And if you're following in these, you're not blindly following them. You're learning from them. You're seeing, you got to figure out why they're looking at those levels. Do those levels work for you? Do these ideas work within your strategy, within your appetite for risk? There's so much to look at. Oh,
Yeah,
I got a question. Oh, go ahead, JD.
I'll just throw something out. You're not going to find, going back to chat rooms, you're not going to find a great one immediately. Like, you shouldn't get discouraged if you pay some money for one and it turns out to be garbage. Give another one another shot. You might run into a spot where there's actually great traders in there giving insightful information. So don't get discouraged if you lose a little money on a bad product. There are good ones out there.
Absolutely. You're going to go through a lot of ups and downs when looking at these. Now, Hogue, I got a question for you. We're over here talking, we're looking Twitter, we're talking chat rooms. You are the old soul in the group here. You've been around a little bit longer than the rest of us. I'm not calling you old, but I'm kind of leaning towards that.
If the shoe fits.
Back in the day when you started back on the floor, it was all chalkboards and guys were writing information. Once they started introducing some technology down there and you had the news board come up, I know you're obviously looking at that. Now, life's changed a little bit for you. Where are you looking? Have you been able to figure out, cell phones and Twitter yet? Or is it still, waiting on the Wall Street Journal to come in the morning?
We should have titled this segment Roasting Hogue.
I had to. It just felt natural.
I came into the business after the chalking era. They already had the electronic boards. My dad was there, I think, when it was still the hammer and chisel instead of the chalkboards. One of the things I'm looking at is that tweet deck. My good friend John Doherty, the Dancing Bear, showed me a great kind of way to kind of monitor information as it comes out. Now, I find that I use it more often chasing the information more than actually catching the information as it comes out. When there's a headline that changes the markets, it's going to change the markets before we even have time to even look at what happened. So I think some of the most important information that we're going to be getting on any given day, when there is a release, a headline risk, if you will, that comes out and changes the market, we're going to see it in the market before we're going to see it on any news feed or anything like that. But yeah, we used to have, like, I think it was Reuters wire that was like hanging over the pit, but you had to sit there and stare at it if you were going to catch anything before anybody else. I think as far as chat rooms are concerned and following other traders, it's always a good idea to keep an eye on those things, to learn. As Dan, you mentioned, you don't want to be fed fish. You want to learn how to catch fish so you can do that for the rest of your life. And as long as there is an educational feature to any of these chat rooms, I'm all for it. But I'm also very cautious to make sure and do my own homework. You're seeing things on the news, the talking heads, they're all talking the market one direction. Are they really talking their position, or are they just talking because they have to fill up time? I think half the time it's the latter, because when everybody's one way, when the market always looks the best at the top and worst at the bottom, when everybody's already all into the upside, then it's time to start thinking the other direction. And it's that ability to do that homework, to recognize the fact that this auction is tiring, there may be a change coming that is most important. So watch what other people are saying, take that with a grain of salt. If you're following other traders, make them tell you why they like those levels and how they like to use them. It's all in the context. What context are you looking at that level through? What lens are you looking through? There's a million ways that you can annoy somebody running a chat room, but it's important for you to use that time to gain the knowledge that they may be handing to you, but not telling you behind the scenes how they're coming to these decisions. And I think that's most important, because when it comes down to it, the only people we can depend on in this environment is ourselves. You know, there's the people are going to come and go. Chat rooms are going to come and go. If you're going to be a trader for a long time, you're the one that matters.
Yeah, you got to take your time. You got to ask the questions why. You got to dig into some of this stuff. Mick, you're a little younger than Hogue by a couple of years. And where are some of the places you go, and what's some of the homework you're doing when it comes into looking at these sources?
Sure. Thank you for asking. Well, like it was previously said, I mean, you're in control of your own destiny. So you and only you are responsible for, your homework and the outcomes of what you're actively doing during the day. Now, I think it's so important to stay in tune with what things are going on. There's a lot of outlets for doing that. If you're taking risk in a product, you need to have some background information. Sometimes less than more so. It depends on what kind of trading you're doing. Are you a fundamental trader where you need to know the story and the scoop on every product, or are you looking at technicals? Fundamentals tend to play out in the technicals. So if you are strictly a technical analyst, you might not need to stay in tune with what's going on as much as other people, but should definitely be watching the news, reading articles, seeing what's going on in the world, seeing what's going on in that industry. There's a lot of outlets to find that information. I think Twitter's is a great one. You get information instantaneously. Since I do like technicals, I know that when it comes to swing highs and swing lows in a product, over a higher time frame, it's very important to know where those levels are, because, well, they're levels that everybody else in the world's watching. Same thing goes for information. Certain information comes out, it's common knowledge almost instantaneously to anybody who's following it, and you should stay on top of those things. As far as chat rooms and stuff like that, I know that a lot of people seek camaraderie. I personally don't like chat rooms. I've been in some of them before, and people start posting pictures of their 1 minute or 5 minute chart. I know I'm looking at the wrong place. Sharing their trades or saying to go long or short at a certain price, or I think maybe JD mentioned it, or Danny, I think it was you. You got to go long above 56, and you got to go short above 40 something. Like, you need context. I don't ever want to see another post from anybody who says something like that without framing it out why. In a previous role prior to Top Step, I had a little bit of input and discretion on what we were doing, and if I ever said, I think we need to go long soybeans here, something like that, I was quickly put in my place. I could never say anything like that without giving multiple reasons why and some context around it. So context is so important. Going back to the talking heads and the filler on the news, I know that some of these people that, they pick a product and someone has to give a bullish stance and someone has to give a bearish stance. Some of those people that are talking up a bearish stance are actually long the product. This is, a lot of the stuff on the news, great information, but it's also entertainment too at the same time. So you need to try and weed that out. You hear something, great, but do your own homework on it and your own investigation. So I think, I think you really need to be doing your homework. It's part of the job too. Do you guys still have me? I know I cut out last week. I'm seeing internet connection unstable.
You cut out a little bit there, but we can still hear you.
Okay.
One quick question though for you, Mick, because Jack's not here, and I totally forgot our standard structure, but I want to make sure we do have that trader shout out before I forget.
Trader shout out. Glad you mentioned that. I forgot about that. Craig Zabrowski up 1,200 trading S&Ps right now. So good for you. I had one other talking point that I forgot about.
We're losing you a little bit right now. Think on it. We'll get that internet
One
stable a
I
little bit.
want to mention, Craig. If I come back to it, I'll interrupt whoever's talking.
All right. One thing I do want to say for myself too.
Okay.
I think a lot of this comes down to, JD was talking about, you kind of experience this. You find people that you're attracted to, that it's like-minded information, and certain things start to stand out to you. And gosh, it was probably 7 years ago or so, 6 years ago. I was standing down on the floor and I got a news alert on my phone. I don't know which one it was. What some app alerted me that something had happened. The bond market hadn't moved just yet. We made a quick trade on that. It hadn't posted up on the board on the floor, which was what everyone was watching. All the old timers didn't even have cell phones with them in the pit. They'd set them on their desk outside because they didn't want to be bothered. I had my cell phone in my hand or sitting there right in front of me at all times. I got a news alert, was able to make a great trade because of it. We traded based off of what fundamentally should happen based off of that new information. And since then, I have had every news channel on my phone, from CNBC, Fox, CNN, Wall Street Journal, Reuters. I have the alerts and notifications turned on every single one of those. I've actually stopped watching news throughout the day just because I was so sick of it. No matter what, everything became so politicized, and it was very biased in what I felt was the information they were giving. And I just needed the quick headlines. I needed to know what is happening in this quick moment. Give me the one-liner. That's all the information I need. And that's really been beneficial for me. And so I think find what works for you. And if something helped you out at one point, pay attention to that. And if it continues to help you out, hey, that's probably a decent source to be watching. That's how it's worked for me.
Hey, I think my internet's finally stable again. And I did remember the last point I wanted to make. Get yourself well-rounded information. Think about both sides of the story. And, I bring it up because I remember, I mentioned it before in these segments before, but, I had a short bias in soybeans, about a decade ago, and it was costing me quite a bit of money. We had super favorable growing seasons. All I was doing was fixated on, weather, crop progress, and stuff like that. The piece I forgot to look at is how much of these beans China was buying, and the market ran up, and it cost me dearly during that time. So I was only looking at one side of the story. You hear information, be a devil's advocate too. Question it, do your homework, try and think about the other side. The more things you can piece together and weed out, the better off you're going to be.
That's a great point. There's just because fundamentally something should happen based off of one little news event, there's so many other things that can have a major effect. You think about it, right? You've got unemployment number. The first one or employment situation, I say, the first thing everyone looks at is unemployment rate. If unemployment rate is as expected, that's one thing. But then you've got non-farm payrolls in there. You've got private payrolls. You're getting about 6 different numbers that are going to come out, and everyone's analyzing each one of those. So make sure you're looking a little bit further at the news that's coming out. That's really, really going to help you understand just kind of what you're reading there and what you're seeing. Just because you think it should do one thing doesn't mean that's going to be the case. You see yields dip. You think treasuries should go higher, but there's a lot more involved into what's going to move those markets. Before we close things out here, does anyone have anything they want to round out with? Any of your favorite source for each person, I say? JD, what's your favorite source that you follow or person that you follow?
Sure. Probably the most reliable source I have is something called Live Squawk. I have them up on my tweet deck right in front. They're usually great for breaking news. They also have a subscription service, which costs quite a bit of money if you want the high speed news. But I think it's perfect for the way I trade, just getting it right off the tweet deck. So that would be, I would say that would be my favorite follow.
Hogue, what do you got? Who's your go-to source if you were to pick one?
Same as JD. He's the one that taught me, showed me it, and it's I've always got it up. I'm always just kind of monitoring it. But like I said, most of the time, if there's some sort of headline risk that hits the marketplace. I'm looking at it after the fact to find out what the heck just happened. But at least you've got it there, and at least there's, largely unbiased, just, this is what's happening information.
Awesome. Mick, who's your go-to source?
Yeah, I have a few of them, like John and John. I like that, and as well as Reuters. I think CME Group puts out some great stuff too. I follow their In Focus newsletter, which comes out every day. There's also, they have, professionals in the industry come in and to do commentary on those markets. I think that's very valuable. And then, following people that I know are successful in the industry as well. That aren't trying to sell anything, and aren't trying to push biases on you. They state facts, don't share their opinion, but you can kind of, get where they're going with that. But they're not trying to, speak strongly one way or the other.
Awesome. Thanks, Mick. We're losing you a little bit there. I will say mine is actually, I've found turning notifications on Apple News, which is connected to my Wall Street Journal and my CNBC apps. Those tend to be the fastest alerts I get. Those are the two I pay the most attention to there. And then JD, we just got one last question here. Is it Live Spot or Live Squawk?
Squawk.
Live Squawk.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, everybody, thanks for tuning in. I do have a quote to round us out here today, which I think is pretty poignant for this one. Kofi Annan: knowledge is power, information is liberating, education is the premise of progress.
Very good one.
Awesome. Well, Hogue, why don't you send us home?
Dan, I didn't know I can get information on this thing.
Yeah, it's more than just phone calls. You can have emails. You can even talk to people through words, written words on there. It's called text messaging. I'm not sure if you heard of it.
Do I have to chisel it into the front, or
grab your pen, and you take your pen and you scribble on the screen and you write to whoever you're sending it to, from, and then you throw it up in the air.
All right. Well, how do I end this? There's a lot of information out there. Too much is overkill. Like JD said, weed out the ones that don't do you any good. Keep the ones that help you. Keep those around. But just remember, and when it comes down to the ending and to the bottom of it all here, you are the one responsible for the decisions that you make. And if you do the homework and you accept the information that even just the market is telling you, you can greatly improve your probabilities of consistent profitability. So depend on those a little bit, depend on yourself a lot.
Outstanding. Well, everybody, thanks for tuning in. We will see you next week. Next week is a pretty exciting one. Kind of feeds off of this. We're going to talk about taking responsibility. So until then, take some responsibility for yourself and make some money out there. Trade well, everybody.
Have a great day.